Welcome back to the Sister Brunch podcast, and this is our season 7. We are building the largest archive anywhere of the stories of Black women and Black gender-expansive people who are thriving, killing it, doing it all in the entertainment industry. We're so excited for today's guest. Sister Brunch family, please join me in welcoming a visionary architect of equity in entertainment, my dear friend, Karen Horne.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you today.
We are so excited. This has been years in the making. I think I met you. I always like to just share these, it was at my first, when I entered into the industry in 2016, 2017 at ABFF. And I remember, I think it was Kelly Edwards told me about you, and you were in one of the suites. You know how you get a suite at the hotel, and you just had all of these adoring fans around you. And I thought, how can I move my way into there? And this is why we do Sister Brunch. Because I think the world should know about you and your influence, Karen, truly.
Yeah.
And you don't talk about it a lot.
I think I have just been really blessed to be in a position where I was able to have that influence. You can want to do a lot of things, but you have to be in a place where people give you access. One of the things I've always said, talent and access plus opportunity equals success. So I was very lucky and fortunate to be in places where I could provide opportunity for people and help them succeed.
Okay, how did you get that? Right? Agreed, but take us back to as far back as you want to.
Sure. I mean, I love to kind of tell the story. I wanted to work in television and broadcasting since I can remember. I have an older sister who studied in our high school. We had a television station, and she came home one day and had to look at television, a show, to see how many cameras there were. And that's when I kind of recognized that television is more than what we see. There's people behind the scenes. I've always been a news junkie. And I wanted to be Barbara Walters growing up, and studied broadcasting in college. And my senior year, I got a job working at ABC in New York, and I actually got to meet Barbara Walters, who was really gracious and said, you're the reason why I continue to do this. Keep at it. But then I stood back and I looked at the line of people waiting to meet Barbara Walters and the line of people waiting to meet her boss. And I was like, who is he and what does he do? Because she's Barbara Walters and more people want to meet him than her.
Okay.
And that's when I learned about the offices that I've had the privilege of sitting in for throughout most of my career.
I'm sorry, where were you born? Or
New Jersey. I'm a Jersey girl.
New
Jersey.
We have Effie Brown on this season, also from New Jersey. I don't know if you knew that, but for both of you to have, and of course New York is right there, but we're in LA, right?
Yep.
So to have made that trek from there.
Well, I'll tell you how I got there.
Yes.
So I was working at ABC, got a job working at ABC Sports, and I
and out of college, out of undergrad?
Senior year of college, I did.
Yes.
I finished my senior year while working at ABC.
And what did you study?
I studied broadcasting.
Okay, you studied broadcasting undergrad, and where?
At Montclair State University, which is the #1 state university in New Jersey. It is a much better school now than it was when I went there. I actually serve on their board for their School of Communications, Arts, and television. But it's a fantastic school for broadcasting and television, and that's where I knew I wanted to do, and that's where I could afford to go to, and that's where I went. But got a job working at ABC Sports, and because I had to do our competitive information reports, I would come in really, really early in the morning to do those reports because I sucked at typing, and I knew I wasn't good at that, but I wanted to get it out of the way before the day began. And the only other person who came in that early in the morning was the person who was vice president of our department. And so when his desk became open, he asked me to come work for him. He's like, I know you can't type, but you're really good with people, and that's what I need on my desk. So I did, and he was a rising star at the company and in the industry. And he was promoted and kept bringing me along with his promotions. He eventually was asked to move to Los Angeles to be president of ABC Entertainment. And he moved me from New York to Los Angeles with him.
Yes.
And that person's Bob Iger, who is...
Wait.
Yeah. And that's how I
I
started
did
my
not know this
career.
about
You
your
did not?
story.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait,
I
you
don't
and
often
Bob
tell it. I don't often
Iger.
say it because,
Which again,
yeah.
though, see, this is why we do this, because this is part of the story. First of all, I would like for him to say your name out loud.
Yeah, I would too.
Yes, right. And the folks that really have been behind the scenes helping someone like Bob Iger go from where he was to where he is now. This is what's missing.
Yeah.
This is why we do this,
Listen,
because everybody should know who you are.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I'd love to say that I'm responsible for Bob Iger's success.
I'll say it.
I mean, listen. I always said to him, like, all the good things happened when I worked for you. So, like,
Just saying.
but what's important there is that Bob is recognized as one of the best leaders. He wrote a book on leadership, and that's how I learned how to be a leader. And that's one of the things I pride myself most on, how I not only lead my teams, the people who work with me and under me, but also the people that I support. Like, so if I'm in a writing program, I'm doing a writing program, how I lead those writers is really important to me, and how I treat them is really important to me. And I think a lot of that I got to learn working under Bob for like 8 or 9 years. So, yeah.
Okay, amazing. So, and now let's transition some into, because you ended up in that impact space, which is really, again, you've changed the industry in ways that folks don't even realize because of the ways that you nurtured emerging storytellers. So how did you end up in that space?
So when I left, Bob got promoted and moved back to New York to be head of all of ABC. And my boyfriend moved out with me. We were married. He was working at Warner Brothers. And I was like, I'm going to stay in Los Angeles and not move back. And I always used to joke that my first name was Karen. My last name was in Bob Iger's office. And so I knew that I had to fly the nest in order to make it on my own.
Yes.
So when I left ABC, I got a job working for an organization called the Black Filmmaker Foundation, different from ABFF. It was run by Warrington Hutland, and it was an organization that was created to help promote Black filmmakers. And I think it was there that really I found my love for finding new talent and nurturing them. During that time, I got pregnant with my first kid, and I sold a series to HBO that I produced.
What?
It was an adult animated series based on a comic book called Spawn. We won 3 Emmys.
I know Spawn. Wait,
Yes.
okay, how come that's not on the bio?
Yeah.
And also, okay,
Yeah.
you did Spawn.
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Karen,
Yeah.
as a producer.
A producer.
You
Yeah.
pitched it, you sold it.
Yeah. I mean, Andy, my husband, found it. And he was a big comic book fan and is a big, and so he found it. But I wasn't under contract with Warner Brothers. So we fostered this relationship with Todd McFarlane, the guy who created it. And Todd was like, let's sell it. And so I sold it to HBO and produced it. Yeah.
Okay.
But so was going to be a stay-at-home mom / producer with my first kid. And then Disney called me and asked me if I would, and this was before Bob. Disney called me and asked me if I would be interested in talking to them about running their writing and directing efforts there.
Okay.
And that's when I first started doing the Disney Writer Fellowship Program, which is now the ABC Fellowship Program, and their directing program. I was part of that creative team for Disney, ABC, which is now ABC Studios. So did that, and then got pregnant with my second child, and I knew I couldn't run what was that department then at Disney and be a mom to 2 kids, which was more important to me. So Nickelodeon had been pursuing me about helping them start a writing and talent development programs there.
Yes.
So I left Disney and went to Nickelodeon because they were allowing me to do it as a quote unquote consultant, but I did everything there. But it gave me the opportunity to be at home with my kids a little bit more.
Love it.
And so I did that.
Okay,
And yeah.
let's, because now, I mean, even just with your first child, we've had this question before, and no one on our producing team has been able to answer this question, and we didn't dig in with other guests before about being a mom and doing
being a
this.
Black mom too, by the way. That's a little different. It's a little different.
lot different, right? Being a Black woman, period, a Black mom raising kids and doing all of this.
Mhm.
How did you
I
do
mean, I
it?
see, and I point at the Black mom because we don't grow up with having nannies and other people take care
Right,
of our children.
right.
So I took care of my kids,
Yes.
and I didn't, listen, I had a great partner, and I did have babysitters and stuff, but I didn't have a nanny, like I had to make sure that someone was picking up my kid.
Wow.
So how I did it is just I did. Like I grew up having to do what you needed to do to get done to get what you need to
Yeah.
get done. And I did
Yes.
it,
And you
and
did.
I did it. And I often say, and I believe this, is that being a mother made me a better executive, and being an executive made me a better mom. Um,
Mm.
it made me a better mom because I didn't have time to be a helicopter mom. Like, I was like, y'all, let's figure this out.
Yes.
And my mom, who was a single parent, said to me, I can't read your mind. Tell me what's on it. And, let's get stuff done. And then being a mom helped me be a better executive because I didn't sweat the small stuff. Like when you see a
Yes.
kid who's like, broken an arm or something like that, you figure out how to do it, and you just don't sweat the small stuff.
Mm.
And oftentimes you have to treat your colleagues like kids, and I was able to do so. So and get what we need to be
Ooh,
done
let's
and get
talk
to
about that. Right, right.
yeah.
So you were kind of, and again, I mean, that goes back to the Black mom thing is
Mhm.
like a lot of us end up being a bit of a mammy in
Mhm.
this industry. But
Yeah.
if that gets us to the places we want to go, and
Mhm.
somebody does have to be the mom,
Mhm.
right? Like somebody has to make the hard decisions often.
And what I do really calls like when you're creating avenues and path roads for people to do. And I say, like, when you want to be a writer, actor, or director, it's not just a job for you, it's your dream, right? It's not just a
Yes.
job. So having the opportunity to kind of nurture that is like being a mom to those. I mean, I used to walk around with my
Yes.
writers following me behind like a mama duckling, and my little ducklings follow me,
That was ABFF. I
Yeah.
just saw. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, I
Yeah.
got to get in line with all
Yeah.
of these, adoring
Yeah,
fans.
and I think, it's part of my
Yeah.
astrological sign, if you will. It's part of me being a mom and a nurturer at heart, and, yeah.
So we've got one big name already who's lucky to be named with you at the same time, Karen
Yes.
Horne and Bob Iger. Are you able to name any other folks that you whose careers you were part of developing?
Listen, I've been in this game for a minute, so there are a lot, and I love them equally, and if I forget some of them, I'm gonna feel bad about it, but,
Okay.
like, Saladin Patterson was one of my first writers at Disney,
Oh my gosh.
and I flew him out from Alabama, and he'd never been to California before, and, I showed him around our Disney lot, and then in my car, I had a sticker for Warner Brothers because my husband at the time was working at Warner Brothers, and so I drove him around the Warner Brothers lot and moved him here. And
Amazing.
whenever I see him now and he's with his kids who are adults, he's like, "If it wasn't for her, you wouldn't be here." Like, he says that in front of
Yes.
that. And so
Yes.
so so Saladin is one of the, writers that I'm like, he was one of my first, but there are other writers like Felicia Henderson now, who's doing the revival of A Different World.
Alicia Henderson is going to be on as a
Oh,
guest on
yeah.
the
She
podcast
was in
this
my
season. I love
NBC
this.
writing program. Then
What?
Brittany Matt, who did Harlem, was in my NBC writing
Yes.
program.
Yes.
Um, uh, Keto Shimizu, who is a showrunner, creator, Kirk Moore. The list just goes. I mean, I
Amazing.
can't. I'm forgetting
No, this is
people.
good. This
There
is
are actors like Imiati Corialdi, who was in my
yes.
scene showcase, who's on Reasonable Doubts.
Yes.
I'm gonna forget a lot
No,
of them,
that's
but,
yeah.
there are directors out who are
Yeah.
doing
Yeah, and they
fantastic
all
things,
know.
and
They all know.
yeah, I mean, it's great.
So, and let's to the extent you're comfortable and, we can edit all of this, but, um in 2020, there were all these promises made, and you and I that was an opportunity. That's when Sister Brunch got started. This was this opportunity, and it felt the industry felt very hopeful
Mhm,
for Black women, Black gender expansive people, etc. Like all of the folks that we work with and for. And so all these promises were made, and then in the last couple years, they are not being carried out.
mhm,
They are. It is very clear that a lot of that was performative,
mhm,
and unfortunately, that also meant layoffs at the
mhm,
same time that the government was laying off Black women. That's statistic like 600,000, 300,000 Black
Mhm.
women all laid off at the same time. You were part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, I wanna say to you, when what happens to Black women is like the canary in the coal mine, because it usually indicates what's gonna happen on a larger scale,
Yep.
and it happens to us first. But yes, I was part of that. Yeah.
Where are you
Yeah.
now?
Let's go back. Like, I will say,
Yes.
like, this work has never been easy. Even when people think it has been easy, after George Floyd was murdered, there was a lot of money being given to anybody who said they are gonna work in this field and they're gonna work in diversity. There were a lot of things happening. Money doesn't solve it. The work has to happen, and money doesn't necessarily make the work happen. So you can give money, but you could give money without doing the work, and that doesn't actually change anything. And I will also say that Hollywood has always been probably the most difficult. We think that Hollywood is different because they're liberal, right? What I often told people is that Wall Street, which is considered conservative, has had people of color who oversee billion-dollar funds for decades. And there is still not a person of color in this industry who can solely greenlight something. And so our liberalism in Hollywood doesn't necessarily translate
Yeah.
to equity. It
Yeah.
just never has. And it's harder because they believe it does, and it doesn't necessarily
That's
mean
the
that that's the
hardest
hardest part about it, right?
because then it takes so much time to convince them that the efforts that they're
Right.
making are
They're
not
taking it personal.
making a
They
change, and
take
then
it
they take
personal,
it
like, "How
personally.
could you dare call me?" "I'm not a racist. I'm not saying you're a
And you're like,
racist, but
"That's
look
not
at your
what I
set."
said." Right,
But look what you
right.
said, you
And
know?
look at what you say you're committed
Yeah.
to, and look at the numbers, look at the data.
Yes.
We're not there, so
Yeah.
something is
Yeah.
not working.
Yeah, and I always lean into data because data doesn't lie. The numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
So yeah, in 2020, we did a lot of work. It was during the pandemic and it was difficult. But then in 2023, I was restructured to
Mhm.
save employees, was what they said.
Again, the black
Mhm.
woman had to be the one to
Mhm.
save them back
Yep.
back to being the
Yep.
mama.
Yep.
You have to sacrifice yourself and your title
Yeah.
and your money. Okay.
And it
Yes.
came really, it wasn't like, listen, I'm not stupid. I could see what was happening around me. I worked at Warner Media. When it was Warner Media, it was amazing. And the person
Mm.
who brought me in there, Christy Halberger, was a huge advocate, and the company really believed in it. When it became Warner Brothers Discovery, they didn't really believe in it. I remember first meeting the head of HR there, and she said, "We have diversity stuff. We do unconscious bias training." And I said to myself, I was like, "Self, do you want to tell her how you feel about unconscious bias, or do you want to keep your job?" And I'm like, Karen's gonna be Karen. So I said,
Yeah.
"I really don't believe bias is unconscious." And I said, "I love that you do
Ooh,
that."
say that again.
I said, "But I
Right.
don't believe bias is unconscious. So it's great that you guys do something. I'm looking forward to working with you more." And listen, she probably had it out for me that moment. I think I did stay around after the acquisition longer than any of my other colleagues did.
Mhm.
And it was probably because they knew they had to deal with all of the different community organizations like the NAACP, the Urban League, the National Hispanic Media Coalition, all of the different Latino coalitions, the Asians, and I knew them all because when I was at NBC
Yes.
and Comcast came in, I worked with them. So when they were like saying,
And you didn't I just have to
Mhm,
say, because I just wanna uplift you in every possible way during this time together, which is that was so intentional on your part because obviously, Sister Brunch is about Black women, and Black gender expansive people, but it is so important to think intersectionally. It's
mhm,
so important to think about coalition building.
mhm,
And you are somebody that any of the groups, Disability
mhm,
Belongs, all of these other groups, you introduced me to
yeah,
Axel Caballero
yeah,
and
yeah,
right, Lalif and
mhm,
Nalip and that you understood the importance of nurturing all
Mhm.
of them,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Cape,
Mhm.
go to
Yeah.
any of these parties and Karen is at everybody's being celebrated at
So,
every
thank
one.
you. Yeah.
And that is so important as well and rare.
Yeah.
It really is rare.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, but I
So
just, yeah.
I appreciate it.
Mhm,
Thank you. Like,
mhm,
so
mhm.
yeah, so I lasted there
Okay.
longer than any of my other colleagues
Yeah.
did. And right before I left, the company was getting ready to roll out because I don't know if you knew, if you remember, there was a time where Warner Brothers Television was saying during their cutbacks they're going to get rid of their writing program.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was just like,
Yes.
"Wait, wait, wait."
Yes.
And I had told them ahead of time, "If you have to, we will absorb it." Like that was my role there
Mhm.
anyway, is to try to bring all of the random acts of diversity together and not have it
Yes.
be different.
Yes.
And I was like, does it make sense that we have 2 different writing companies, programs at the same company?" So when they announced that they were gonna get rid of their writing program and it was such a backlash, I had already made the intent to absorb their writing efforts. And I
Okay.
came out and I was just like, "No, no, 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 no. I got you, writers. I got you." And it really, a lot of people, like, it picked up on a lot of news articles. And so the company was intending to do this whole rollout about, they were like, "You're the only positive thing coming from this company right now," and internally and externally about the work I was doing at the company, not just in the creative space, but with the workforce. I was creating new pipelines for executives there,
Yes.
like Latino
Yes.
executives in our film division, which there are none, and
Yes.
very little in the industry. And then all of a sudden I got restructured out of it. So where am I now?
Yes.
So now I'm doing a lot of what I think is important and leaning into that. I'm coaching, which I've always done in my career. I'm consulting and, I'm going to be doing a couple, some programs with 4 companies. I've, consulting with some tech companies, which is interesting.
Mhm.
I am leaning into the not-for-profit work that I do. I sit on 5 different boards.
Yes.
I'm the chair of the Urban League for the Greater San Francisco Bay Area, which I really think that the work in these communities, as you mentioned, Disability Belongs. I'm on the executive committee for them. Alliance of Women Directors. I'm on the board of the college I went to, the organization called the Black House Foundation, which
Love
was
Black
one of the
House.
the first house in all of Sundance,
Yes. Shout out to
and
Bricks and
Bricks and
Diamond.
Diamond.
Yes.
I'm on their board. So I've been doing a lot of that work.
Yep.
I do miss, I will say honestly, I think the change comes from within,
Yeah.
inside. And so I do miss leading a team of people working inside. I miss more of the corporate side than the creative side, if I'm being honest,
Yeah.
because the corporate side is how you get to do the creative side. And we know that everything, this business should be of service to the creative. But I believe that oftentimes the business kills the creative, and I would love to still be a part of where the business still services the creative.
That is so perfectly
Mhm.
and beautifully said. And let's connect that to, you talked about how there's not even currently one Black person, and hopefully we're getting there, one brown person, et cetera, that can green light a project, right?
I
And
mean,
what
the
that
closest we have is Perlina Ibokwe now,
Yes.
who is at NBC Universal. Previously, she was at Universal Studios, the television productions. That she has to sell stuff, but now she's in charge of all of NBC. So she
Okay.
probably has the ability to say to her boss, which is
We
Donna Lane,
should
"We
that
should
we
do this."
should do this.
Mhm.
Right, and I think about, Alana Mayo,
Mhm.
Nicole Brown, like, we're getting there,
Mhm.
but we're still not in the position. We ain't
Mhm.
no Bob Iger yet,
No.
but we need to be there,
No.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then talking about this, like, corporate and creative, and what all this boils down to is finances,
Mhm.
right? Like, ultimately, why corporate can do these programs is because they got so much money.
Mhm.
So I
Well,
wanna
and the programs don't cost a lot, by the way. None
Well,
I
because they
mean,
don't pay what they should be
they
paying.
don't.
They
That is
don't pay the
true.
labor,
No, they
but
don't. I mean, but if you take it into consideration what it costs to produce a show,
Absolutely.
It's craft services.
And not to mention the return on investment,
Mhm,
right? Which
mhm,
actually is more. It's less risky
mhm,
to put your funding into these
mhm,
programs
mhm,
because let's face it, we go see our stuff, right?
mhm,
We go
mhm.
see our stuff and their stuff.
Absolutely.
We're paying for these
Yep.
things. If they're really smart, they're going to nurture these folks in a way that then they're loyal to your
Yeah.
studio, to your company.
Absolutely. And let's talk about the programs for a second because people used to say, oh, you came from that diversity program, right? But let me just back it up a little bit. The diversity programs, at NBC for Writers on the Verge, we often got close to 3,000 applicants for 8 positions.
Yeah. Oh,
More
yeah.
people should have
Oh,
got,
yes.
like, if we could service them, we would have taken more, but we can't service them all, right? So it's easier to get into Harvard, Princeton, and Yale than it is to get into any of these
Oh,
quote unquote diversity programs.
right.
Once you're in there, you are then trained by the company about
Right.
how to do the business of it, how to be the best writer week in and week out. So I would say that anybody, and I would, argue with me if you want to on this. Any writer that has come through my programs or any other writing program is more prepared to be on set and to succeed
No doubt.
than, your cousin Buffy from the country club.
Okay. And so
Mhm.
and we can get into the fact that they pay whatever, even if they should pay more, but even what they pay, these studios are paying this money for these programs. Now have people who are more than
Mhm.
qualified, but are they hiring the folks that come out of their
Right.
programs? Like, they're
Yeah.
not.
I
And
mean,
again, data doesn't lie.
no.
So and what we know is because it's been the Karen Horns of the world that have been running these programs, we know the quality of the folks coming out of them is there.
Yeah, some of the people I forgot to mention, and I don't get credit for all of them, but at NBC, we had a diverse staff writer initiative that wasn't necessarily tied to our writing program at first, but then it became tied because we're like, why are we doing this writing program and not using our writers to be placed on these shows? But through that
Exactly.
program, Mindy Kaling came from the diversity writing program. Donald Glover was
I mean,
came through the diverse writing program.
this is what I'm
There are
saying.
huge people and
Yep.
who came through these programs
Yep.
and,
Yep.
yeah.
And to only name a couple who are now show running, right?
Mhm,
Because that's the
mhm,
goal. And they're all brilliant, right?
mhm,
We know that you have nurtured these brilliant
mhm,
people. The fact that they are not then continually uplifted
mhm,
once they come out is
mhm.
a problem. There's lots of ways that you can support us on Sister Brunch. You can join our Patreon, patreon.com/Sister Brunch, SISTA Brunch, or you can follow us on Instagram at Sister Brunch Podcast. That's SISTA Podcast. Join us there, engage with the content. Let us know what kind of guests you might want to have on or questions that you have for us to ask our guests. We appreciate any and all engagement that you give us. It helps us grow as a podcast. It helps reach more people, so we appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Karen Horne, and you are listening to Sister Brunch Podcast.
So we like to talk about
Mhm,
financials, whatever you're comfortable with, whether that is salary
mhm,
when you were working for these studios, whether that's budget for the programs, or whether that's how you're doing and what you're doing now to kind of survive and
mhm,
pay all the bills,
mhm.
whatever you're
Yeah,
comfortable
sure.
with.
It's when I was at NBC, when I left NBC, I was senior vice president of a department there. And I found out when I left, or I found out when a colleague of mine who worked in alternative, a white guy who was vice president, he made over $100,000 more per year than I did as a senior vice president running a department. So at NBC, when I left NBC, the salary, listen, it depends on where you're listening to this from. In
Mm-hmm.
California, the salary was okay, but it wasn't great.
Mm-hmm.
When
Mm-hmm.
I went to Warner Media, the salary was really good, and I was really happy there.
You're gonna say six figures for sure.
Oh, well,
High six figure. Are you
it was
comfortable with?
it was 6 figures at NBC.
Okay.
It was, in the high 2s at NBC
Okay.
but at Warner Media with bonus and everything, it was well into more than half a million there. So that was
I
really
love it.
lovely.
I love it.
And bonus time, like when Discovery acquired us, I got 3 bonuses that year. I was like, let's go on vacation. Like it was like, or
Yes.
luckily what I did was let's put this in my savings because that's how I'm helping to survive right
Yep.
now.
Yep. Yep.
So right now, like for me now as a coaching consultant,
Mm.
I will tell you, and this is interesting. I am right now working with a production company. And the president of the company knows like who asked me to come in and coach and consult with them. I gave her what my rate was and I found my rate by like dividing what my salary was per hour, like with bonus per hour.
Yes.
And she said to me, "You're not charging enough."
Good.
Because she said there are people who don't know this industry who are charging a lot more than you. And I think like I was new to this game, so I didn't understand what I should charge. Now that I'm in it, I understand more. And I think it was also not recognizing my worth because now that I'm working
Like,
with,
no,
y-
how did Karen
I
Horne not
know.
be able to recognize her worth? That says everything about
Yeah.
this industry. Okay.
Yeah. I
Wow.
mean, because what I did is I charged my salary, the hourly, but I didn't take into consideration all the work that
The
who I
expenses, all the
am, put
yes.
in before I step in that
Yes.
hour,
Yes.
after I step in that hour, the research I do to make sure that I'm diagnosing what's going on with you and figuring out how to help you with that. Like all the work that being who I am as a person. I will tell you, I applied for a job once and they said, "We want a type B personality." And I was like, "What the hell is a type B
What is that?
personality? And why
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
someone want that?"
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
and then I recognized that I am a type A. I knew that, right?
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
do run my teams more on a type B, which is kind of like I don't expect them to come to the level I am, but
But you model it
but
for
I'm
them and
and
they
that's what
end up
they
there.
yeah, they
Yes.
do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, so now listen, I miss that corporate salary.
Mhm. You and me both.
I miss
I
it.
mean, I didn't have a corporate one, but I
Yeah,
yes, yes.
I do miss
Yep.
it.
Mhm.
But I am doing the things that I love, including serving on the California Film Commission, which I
Yes.
am honored to be able to be a
Yes.
part of that in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, I do miss it.
I've heard our good friend Kelly Edwards, and we'll cut this out if she doesn't give permission, but she's talking starting at $1,000 an hour,
Well,
at
yes, I
least.
would, and I haven't done that. I
Okay,
mean,
can we are we planting that seed
yes,
for
you're
today that
planting that seed.
you are
So
well more than worth that?
I started coaching with this organization called 3CG Ventures, and it was run by David White, who when I left NBC, he was the head of SAG, and he tried to get me to come over then, and I was like, I don't think I want to work for a union. I want to make more
Mhm,
money. Warner
mhm,
Brothers is
mhm.
paying me a lot more than that. But he said he doesn't like. He actually is now the interim lead of the NFL Players Association. But
Okay,
before that, he said to me, don't walk into a room for less than $500 an hour.
there you go. There
And
you
and I
go.
wasn't there. Like
And you
there
hear I know,
yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
same, it's like I'm like,
Mm,
"Wait, really?" But yes. So
mhm.
we're here to tell
Mhm.
you 100%
Yeah.
yes, at least.
Yeah, I mean, listen, yeah.
Okay.
I
All
mean,
right.
yeah.
Okay,
I
good.
mean, I know I'm
Good. We
worth
go
it. I know I'm worth it. I
you
just
okay,
have
good.
to yeah.
You have to get there.
Mhm.
Yep, it's
And
a mindset
honestly,
shift.
if they want me, then that's what they get. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly, and at least if we start there, I mean, we have to start there
Mhm.
instead of starting at that lower number and
Mhm.
then they're not gonna give you
Yeah.
that number first number.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna get to our Let's Talk Tech
Okay.
segment. So this is where we ask our guests to tell us a term, a phrase, a piece of technology that you use that if someone who doesn't do what you do in the industry hears that word, they don't know what it is.
So it's a phrase. And I use this with writers a lot. And I will say what it is and I'll tell you why I chose it because the phrase is a hat on a hat.
A hat on a hat.
And I use it with writers, and a lot of comedy writers often tell a joke on top of another joke, and it doesn't make the first joke any funnier or it doesn't help their story. So a hat on a hat, like why would you put another hat on top of a hat? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't make it better, right?
Yes.
It's just adding to something that's already there. And I used it because I chose it because I wrote a piece on LinkedIn about it. And I had a picture. A friend asked me about like, what's my favorite phrase for writers? And I had a picture of me being silly, putting on like five, like I had a pile of hats on top of my head. And I put that picture on LinkedIn and I said that life sometimes feels like it's a hat on a hat right now, right? Like it just seems like it's one thing on top of another thing. And it doesn't, and it's not making, none of those things are making us feel better or do better. But we know that there is, like just when you get to the right point in a story and you see it works, we just have to keep
Stop
going. We
adding to
just
then
stop
just
adding it
okay.
and work with it. So I
Amen.
would say hat on a hat is my phrase that I use a lot, and that I think it's relevant in more ways than just for writing.
Okay. We're gonna get to our, I promise we're gonna get to our signature question, but this is making I never put it together in my head about you, Karen Horne, that of course, if you can teach people how to write, you are a badass writer. And what I'm hoping for you is that maybe we get to see some writing.
It's funny you say that. People always ask me, like, "When are you gonna write?" And I think the best writers write because they can't not write. The best writers write because they have these stories living in their head. I used to talk about, like, Stephen King, who is a great horror writer, and I was like, "Who would this guy be if he didn't have the opportunity to put these stories that live in his head on paper," right? Like,
Yes,
I would
yes.
be afraid of that man, right?
Yep.
I'm not, I have so much in my head. I don't know, if I ever feel like I need to put them
Okay.
down on paper. I do write, I journal a lot. I do oftentimes write things on, LinkedIn or something that I feel might
Yes.
help other
Got some
people.
viral posts on on
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
I feel
Yes,
like they may
yes.
help other people a little bit because people are going through a lot now, and we
Yeah,
all are, and
yeah.
me included. And so when I feel like that, I do that. I have a great idea in my head for a guilty pleasure that I'm now putting out into the world. I read a lot. But when I was
Yes.
at NBC and I had to read scripts on top of scripts and Warner Brothers script, like, in this industry, you have to read a lot. Over the summer, I would just like have to try to find like mindless reading. And we were doing 50 Shades of Grey, the movie. And so my feature executives were like, "Have you read the books?" I'm like, "I don't read that stuff," And they were like, "Read it." And so I did. And so my guilty pleasure now is reading those romance novels and that stuff like that. And I have a great idea for one
Listen,
that
Imma plant the seed then in that case for real, because we are talking this season a lot about verticals, about micro dramas, and those do really well
yeah.
with this kind of content.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, you've been the mama.
Yeah.
You have nurtured so many people in this industry. What if you give yourself the
Yeah.
chance
Man.
to go ahead and write? I'll just leave it at that.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
our signature, and
Okay.
I'll be calling you and
All right.
nudging you now.
Exactly. I
Our
know.
signature sister brunch question. So you and your younger self are sitting down to a sister brunch.
She able to drink yet?
She is.
Okay,
Yep,
good.
you can make her. You can make her 21 and older if
Okay.
you would
All
like.
right.
Not that you're not much older than that. I
Yeah,
mean, you're
that's right.
21. She's
Ish.
so what are you both drinking? What are you both eating? And then what do you tell her?
So we're drinking, since it's brunch, we're drinking Prosecco with a little elderflower liqueur in it and
Ooh,
some lime or
okay.
grapefruit in it. And we are eating something savory. I'm more of a savory brunch person, but
Mhm.
then we're sharing an amazing pancake, just to top it off, a good sweet at the end of it. And what will I say to her?
Mhm.
I would say to her, believe believe in yourself. Believe that you have earned the right to be here. Believe that you are worthy of the things that people say about you. And stop. Don't not put yourself first. Is what I would say to her.
Thank you, my
And I
dear
hope
friend.
she tells me that too,
Well,
because I think
so why'd you
we
take that?
still
Because I was about to look in your eyes and say, Karen Horne, sister, believe in yourself. You have given so much to so many other people. You have really
Is this a part where you're like Barbara Walters and you make me cry? Stop
Yep.
that.
You have done so much. You have mama'd the industry. You have delivered and birthed
Yeah.
so many people. It is your time.
Well, I will tell you that it really, I feel like if I left this industry today, like when I left Warner Brothers, I don't know if you guys remember there was a fire on set and someone put like this thing, Karen Horne burning it down when she, I had the honor of getting to hear people's feelings about the work I've done in this industry when I left Warner Brothers. And that's almost like having your eulogy, while you're still giving your flowers while you're still alive. And that was really, really heartwarming for me. So I do believe that if I left this industry today, I will have made an impact on it. And that not a lot of people can say that in any industry that they specifically have made an impact. And I feel that it's been my honor to do that. I've been blessed to be able to do that.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you for having me, Mansion. I love you.
I love you.
Thank you.
You're so awesome.
Yay.
Sister Brunch is brought to you by Trujillo Productions. Our show creators are Anya Adams, Christabel Nsiabwadi, and me, Fanchon Cox. Our season 7 producers are Tasha Rogers and Samantha K. Henderson. Our associate producers are Charlie T. Savage and Ashanti Groves. Sister Brunch is recorded on the unceded territory of the Tongva and the Chumash people in Los Angeles, and specifically in Hollywood at U Podcaster Studios, a Black-owned studio right in the heart of Hollywood. We are so grateful for your support, for joining our community on Patreon at patreon.com/sisterbrunch or donating at givebutter.com/sisterbrunch. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.